All right. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you happen to find yourself. This is game two of the Star Wars CCG 2020 World Championships Day 2. And this is the final match involving undefeated players. So we have the 7-0 Bastian Winkelhaus, the three-time world champion, playing as the light side, and he's running the Galaxy Mania Legend. And he is facing Joe Olson, numerous event winner, numerous time Worlds Day 3 contender. And so we should have ourselves a splendid game coming up here. So we'll get rolling. All right. Joe is rolling with the no money, no parts, no deal objective, better known as the Watto objective, and bringing Nai Chubina, Kuat Drive Yards, and Nagak Warbeast to the table. Bastian goes with the standard start of Brave Resistance, Strike Planning, and Walkling. The Octo system, naturally. I don't know, is it Oc or is it like Oc? Or I really don't know. I'm just going with Octo. And then he's starting the Maz's Castle Antechamber, which has become the site of choice lately for this. Previously, the first iterations of the deck over the last few years used the Takodana Maz's Castle site, and then would pull the 1-0 site, which allows them to retrieve a weapon. But they have since pivoted to instead using Maz's Castle with the Antechamber. They replaced the 1-0 activation from that with the Luke's Hut Octo site that prevents damage from Agents of the Black Sun. But the other important thing is that this site, one, allows you to download Han or Chewie, or Maz if you're randomly playing her, which is useful for getting characters out. But the other important text is the Force Drain -1 on the dark side, which makes the site much less of a liability, especially when they can pull a projection of a Skywalker with Walkling. They can turn that site into a Drain 0, absent any mitigation for that, like Minkanao or Overseeing It Personally Virtual, or things of that nature. So it's like Bastion's going with he's got the Strike Planning pull. He got General Leia. He Rebel Leadership to pull General Kenobi. Joe played Imperial Command to get General Veers into hand from reserve, who's a great card in any match. All right, so what we're going to see here is Joe's probably going to try and move a bit quickly for the first couple of turns, try and get some damage through. We'll get Watto hitting for some early damage here. Let's see, looks like he got Tatooine from hand, which is nice as far as activation goes and not paying 2 to pull it. And then he used Kuat Drive Yards to pull Mustafar. He used Nai Chubina to pull Sebulba, who deploys free to Mos Espa, and flips his objective turn 1. So Watto was pulled from reserve at -2, so he costs 0. Sebulba deployed for free to Mos Espa. He flips. Joe's going to put a card down. If he plays Watto's Chance Cube, that's probably the card that goes down. Otherwise, he'll just put something else down. Doesn't matter. He doesn't worry about Bastion playing 2 because Bastion cannot possibly play 2. You can't pay 2 on your turn 1 because you have no force. So Joe will hit him for a couple here. What we probably see is Legend tends to take a couple turns to set up. They don't really want to get rowdy until they can either take advantage of the weapons protection text from the flip, which needs Luke out, or if they really want to get the drain bonuses. But usually Legend tends to spend the first 2 or 3 turns of the game getting Luke out, getting set up, and then they come down somewhere and they come down hard. Now, Watto's Sight is an interesting one for them to contend with. They obviously have Solo, who will draws if unable to otherwise. They quite probably have Jin Erso, who also draws if unable to otherwise. But absent those, Bastion would need Leia's gun. No, Leia's gun wouldn't work, sorry, because in the Nagak Warbeast. Ditto for Sorry About the Blast proficiency during battle. So Clash of Sabers is Bastion's main other out to drawing Destinies at Watto's Junkyard. All right, so Bastion lost the 2 cards off of his reserve, his used pile there. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying the wrong stuff here. Still waking up. But anyways, the Rescue in the Clouds and the Rebel Leadership, which is nice because it means he knows he didn't top deck Luke or his 2-0 sight or anything like that to Watto, which is always a fear turn one. You just lose a pivotal card and the game is just lost. So Joe just consolidated at Watto's Junkyard, and then he just draws a couple cards, draws about 3, leaves 1. So we see a barrier on Justice, and by saving 1, he bluffs another barrier. So even if Bastian had the option to come down, say Solo and Ray, unless he also has a barrier canceller, that's a bit of a dicey proposition. And he wouldn't be able to make Watto lost during the battle, so he's not likely to do serious overflow. I mean, if he had Ray and Solo hit Watto and no chance cube or anything, or he draws an odd with a chance cube or something, or he doesn't have it, he might actually get some overflow through there and go for it. But that's a high stakes gamble. He wouldn't have the flip to get Luke out of play. He wouldn't have. So because he can't flip, Luke's not out. And he would have used all his force just deploying guys and battling. And he would be losing somebody, so the battle back could be rough because he'd probably have another Watto in hand, quite possibly. And so it's definitely a possibility, but I'd be really surprised he went for it, especially when needing to pull activation. So all right, he gets Luke's head. All right, so that's a bit unfortunate. It means he probably activated the Octo Cliffs, the 2-0 sight that used to pull Luke. Or he has it in hand. So okay, there we go. He has it in hand. So he's just getting the 0 out, which is good for him. We'll probably see Luke come out, and then Bastian just draw some cards is what I would expect. Especially since Watto tends to have tempo early and with the ability to put cards down. Yeah, it's just really dicey to kind of attack into them. You probably see at some point what Bastian is more likely to do is to take control of Mos Espa and then battle in space. Watto usually has a few Star Destroyers, but while it has a lot of guys, it doesn't have a lot of low deploy, high forfeit sort of guys for good wars of attrition. And so Legend is probably set up a little better for that sort of engagement. Plus, they have things like All Wings Report In or Padme add Destinies to attrition and such. So battling in space over the long term is probably something that you'll see Bastian go for. So Bastian's, he pulls Luke, draws up to 12. Either he doesn't care about the last 2, or he's giving Joe a little bit of respect that Joe could play Monarch. Joe is a known Monarch and Grimcash player, so no reason to risk drawing, putting yourself in a bad position just by drawing 1 extra card here probably. So he's just gonna save 2, and also by saving 2, he now has options. He can choose to pay 2 with the Watto card to make Joe deploy it, or he can lose 2 to make Joe put it in used pile. I imagine we'll see the Goldenrod shield from Bastian here pretty soon. So Joe pulls the chance cube. He probably opening handed that last time and put it back. Now he'll pull it. Yep, there's Goldenrod. All right, Joe's got 13 force. You'll see him put somebody at Mos Espa. Ozzel. There's the optimal guy. So that flips him. And then he'll put something down that he can deploy. He's not going to do the chance cube here because if Bastian pays, that would be really bad, because then he has to lose the card and 2, I believe. All right, so Bastian just does go to the lose. And this is a tactic I like to do early as well, is save the 2, but you don't spend it. And you try and get them to put down something that they were banking on, like a Star Destroyer to go to space or something like that. So the Virgins and the Force that Bastian lost, that is a nothing card in this game, so that's good. And then he lost I'm getting pretty good at this from the reserve deck. That hurts a little bit, but considering Justice is on table, it's quite possible that it would never have come into play anyway. So that's okay. Plus, Solo can always get it. So in some sense, losing interrupts off the top early just means that it's easier to find them with Solo. So you're not too unhappy to see that go. All right, so Joe last turn must have activated Vader's Castle because he didn't pull it, and now he's going to pull it. So that'll come out. He has the option to go get Vader if he wants to tank up that site. So he's just going to move Ozzel over there. And then you'll see him probably just draw up to a big hand. We'll see if he gives Bastian credit for Grimtash. I don't think Bastian normally runs Grimtash or Monarch, so you may see Joe's blow past here. Yep, there's 13. And we'll see if he just keeps going or decides. Yeah, he just keeps going. Yeah, this is interesting, especially with the shield. I don't think I've ever seen the new Grimtash or Monarch shield actually hit the table. But just in general, Grimtash and Monarch are a bit out of favor, and so there is just a lot less respect for them, and players just draw large hands, which changes the complexion of the game a bit. And people are able to get that many cards in hand, have the option to respond. All right, so Bastian activates 14. He's got 16 total. All right, he's got strike planning. Let's see. What's he going to whistle up here? You would assume General Lei is a card he can pull. I don't remember if he put her back previously. I'll go back and check. Let's see. I can remember him doing that. No, he did use it to get Poe in last turn. So yeah, so he's going to go again. He'll pull that Leia. He's just taking his time just to decide his turn because he knows exactly what's in his reserve deck, and thus he knows exactly what's in his force pile. And with the once per game force pile search on the Galaxy Mania Legend, knowing what's in your force pile is very important. Allows you to get a key card, so it helps put the pieces together quickly for whatever he wants to do. It really depends on what Bastian thinks the game plan is against Watto. I know Bastian has played a lot of Watto, so he's going to know what he wants to do here. I'm not sure what the correct play is, and also without knowing his hand, it's hard to say. He could try and attack into Watto's sight, but when Joe has a big hand, it feels like there's a lot of things that could go wrong there. I mean, if he's got the Barrier Canceller, he's got a Clash of Sabers, then maybe he just goes for it. But if he doesn't have those things, yeah, there's really just... You might win, but is winning that side enough is the question. Can you actually hold it? And again, with guys like Solo, whose game text gets canceled by Vader, you could potentially get yourself in a really bad spot where you're not able to draw any Destiny. And he knows that Joe has Veers and a 15-card hand, and he's got cards. He's got to have Death Squadron assignments, and probably has the ability to pull like Mark 1 to Blizzard 6, for example, for Veers to pilot. So you could be facing a AT-AT that can draw 2 Destiny through Justice that you can't redraw, and if you did kill Watto, he could even put Watto just on the walker and not flip in order to go for just killing people. So there's some ways it could end poorly. But a lot of times against Watto, that's what you have to do is you do have to take a bit of risks early to catch up with the tempo. So we'll see what Bastian's going to do here. The fact that he's taking this long, yeah, he's definitely pondering his options. If he wants to attack Watto's site, this is probably the turn to do it. Because otherwise, Joe's next turn is probably just establish a space presence, put down a random guy, hit with Watto to either get something free or make him lose 2, and then move over. And he probably just keeps doing that until he's forced to do something else. And so Watto's Junkyard just becomes more and more of a fortress over time. And Bastian certainly knows this. So we'll see what he wants to do here. The way that Watto likes to rely on the occupation damage and on the flip side damage as opposed to force drain bonuses means that things like the Menace Fades strategy for going for a lockdown aren't as effective. So we'll see what he's going to pull out here. I'm going to drink coffee because that was a lot of words. All right. So as I mentioned, Joe's probably thinking he wants to establish the Junkyard as a fortress, and he wants to get to space so he can start draining free and doing more ping damage, or getting more guys on table for board control if Bastian is willing to pay. All right, so Bastian goes with Rey here. And Rey's one of his best fighters. So That declares his intention not to attack that site this turn, but really probably not to attack that site unless things go south and he ends up in more of a desperation situation. So he's not going to be flipped here. You probably don't leave Ray alone here. It's hard to see that working out really well. Yeah, and there's Rose. There's the Death Squadron assignments. Probably looking for Marquand. It'll be Marquand or Stalker, I would guess. Yep, it's Marquand. You'll see Bastian go Ahsoka Tano. Yeah, so she's really good there. Limiting the destinies. Though, again, with Justice, they can't be modified anyway. So that would also ignore Ahsoka Tano. Bastian may be hoping to bait those Justice plays so then he can start doing stuff more freely. Bastian probably has Finn in hand at this point as well, who can react for free. With Ray there and with Rose, he can send him used, so that's something he can bank on. So I like this stack here. It's a solid stack, especially with the flip side. Because if this isn't Legend, what can happen here is that Watto usually runs a few EPPs, and you can get bad situations where like they drop down and they hit multiple people, and you're kind of annoyed, and they clear the site. But with the flip side being able to protect him, that means he can feel pretty safe there. So if Joe does try to attack into him, he just flips, which he wants to be anyway. And then even with Justice, he's probably only losing one, probably losing just like Ray. Or ideally, it would be Finn to use pile. Watto's Destinies are not fantastic. So we'll see. Joe could have Trample. I mean, he could also step on Rose or Finn. Those are possibilities. All right, so Joe's got 19 Force because he got the extra from Wipe Them Out on Bastian's turn. So turn 3, 19 Force, 15 card hand. So something is hitting the table. We'll see if Joe wants to go Tangle at that site. We know he has the pieces in Marquand and Veers. But if you drop just those two guys in battle, Bastian can flip and he can force projection. The fact that I don't think he's pulled it probably means he just has it in hand. And two Watto Destinies, when they're subtracted with a force projection, means that Bastian probably can get away with just losing absolutely nothing if he wants. Or just one guy. Again, probably just like react with Finn and then send him used with Rose. So on its face, that doesn't seem like a great place for Joe to attack. So he probably just gets out the Coward Shield. I don't know. He's going to be on 2 battle against most of the game. Probably not worth it to block 1 retrieval. So he's not going to pay 3 to drain 1, which is good. It's going to accelerate to loop it back and also just check out his reserve deck, see what his destinies are like. I mean, if he looks in there and it's mostly 4s and 5s, then he might decide to go ahead and just wade into Mos Espa anyway. One of the advantages if he goes with a vehicle first is that since the vehicle can't be barriered, if Bastian actually is playing barriers, he could only barrier the guy on the vehicle, but he wouldn't be able to trap him in front of him, because that obviously is a big concern here if he did have barriers. All right, so there we see Mark 1. Looks like Joe's going to go for it. We'll see if he has anything that can change the math. He's just going to go for the flip immediately. This is the way you do it, so that way they have to decide if they want to lose force early or not, and you know whether or not that card is going to be there. You don't want to wait until you use most of your force and then do it. All right, so once again, Bastian's going to put in use. Yeah, I like that play from Bastian because you just put things out of Joe's hand. We'll see if Joe tries to get saucy with actually bluffing an interrupt at some point. That can be fun when you get away with it. All right, so now Joe brings Veers. Looks like there's no barrier. Not that I really expect one, but just it's something you're always aware of. Let's see. Oh, and in the chat, let's see. Oh, snap. So Chris points out that how heavily do we think Joe is betting on Sebulba here? I've heard he always wins. You know, that's a good point. I believe it was the illustrious Brian Hunter, however, pointed out that Sebulba's record is like always in 1. So, I mean, I guess we've already seen the 1, so this shouldn't be the 1. So yeah, he does have Sebulba. He should always win. Like that does seem to make sense. So yeah, I'd say Joe's betting pretty heavily on Sebulba. That seems a safe bet. That's a good wager. I like to think that Luke actually has a poker game going on Octo on Friday nights. Maybe he's playing with that blue milk creature and whatever else the stuff is going on. All right, so Joe's got the bridge, more activation for himself. He puts Veers on the walker. Still got 10 force thing. Okay, Lord Maul with lightsaber. All right, so yeah, that helps encourage the flip from Bastions. I think we would have expected it anyway. But I think you do kind of want to force it at least, and that you have sort of some control at least about getting that done, as opposed to just it waiting around so you don't have like 2 or 3 EPPs and the Maul get blocked. You're better to just have like one guy with a weapon get blocked. And the nice thing is here, he's in a pretty solid position, so even if like Maul got hit and sorried, it still wouldn't matter. I don't think he would justice here unless Bastian did something to add a Destiny now, because with Maul making the Destinies +1, that's Veers drawing twice at +1. And so that's pretty good for Joe. That's better than justicing and getting rid of that +2. So there's Maul. He's got 4 left. Debating if he wants to do anything else before he goes ahead with the battle. He's not worried. Let's see. For the question in the chat, so he's not banking on Bastion drawing a 6. He has Justice. There's nothing to add to attrition. So he's just going to act like Veers is safe. Okay, he's going to go ahead and move Ozzel over. Probably just move him up into the walker for forfeit fodder. So interesting. So he chooses not to battle, but he is in front with a big stack. So now Bastian is going to have a chance to build up his stack more, and then Joe's hoping he can take multiple folks out. All right. Interesting. So we do see a big power. He does decide to move out, but he doesn't fight. Yeah, this should be fun to see. Watto and Sebulba by themselves, when you know that Bastian has access to solo, which means he can draw Destiny easily, is interesting. And you know he has General Obi in hand, so he could definitely bring enough to overwhelm them. But that kind of tells me that Joe did the math and goes, if I don't attack that site and I let him just stock it up and I'm not in front, and then he also goes to space, that Joe thinks he's going to get behind in the damage race because of Rose. And once with the flip side, Bastion be draining 2 and 3, and Joe doesn't want to have to deal with that, so he's going to go ahead and force the issue. No, the cards on Justice, that's Death Squadron assignments, Lord Sidious, and Imperial Barrier. Yeah, Joe probably has a Gick, probably also has another barrier, I would guess. Usually where you see one barrier, it has friends. Let's see, so Bastion gets to retreat with Rose, he gets back Hera. Let's see. Yes, yeah, also Rolling Snakes in the chat points out that you could spend 8 force to put Watto used here. And since Joe only has 1, you don't even have to telegraph that by playing him high. You're not going to care if he retreats prepared defenses for free. That's no big loss. So he could put Watto used and then wreck into Sebulba. But he'd only be able to hit Sebulba with 1 character realistically, because 8 force leaves him with only 7. And he wouldn't be able to reinforce Mos Espa, other than, I guess he'd be able to move the guy over, but that doesn't really buy you a whole lot if there's no battle damage involved. I mean, you go General Obi against Sebulba. Sebulba's forfeit 5, so you might do like 2 overflow. But you just put Watto used, so you didn't kill him. He's probably got another Watto in hand. Watto comes back down next turn, so you have to like move the General over. I feel like you have better options than just, you'd rather kill Watto than just put him used here. All right, so there's solo. So yeah, so Joe left the opening intentionally. Oh, there's the barrier. So Joe's got the barrier. So he does Bastion have a canceller. Right now, let's see. Oh, nope. So Bastion, interesting. He neither grabs it nor cancels it. So he doesn't expect to be doing a ton of aggressive battling. We'll see here. This kind of puts him in an interesting spot because now he probably can't battle into those guys this turn. He doesn't want Solo to be by himself. He can't stack up and wreck into Mos Espa, so he's got to, move his guys over and hope that by having both Veers and Maul out of the way, Joe doesn't have enough to really make this a painful battle back. Plus, it's not like Joe has that many ways to add destinies, and with the flip side, he can guarantee they're not hit. So now he's at the junkyard. He's got 4 guys. And so now he also still has time to draw. That's one of the things you'll see that the really top-level players, it's all about knowing when not to fight, when not to force the issue, and also keeping the hand up, keeping the life force up, or keeping the force pile up, rather. So you keep the resources here. So yeah, Bastian's at 14 now, so now he's like, you know what, I don't think Joe has Monarch. So he's just going to go for it. Joe cycles a 5, just getting the good destinies back into his reserve. Let's see. Here we go. All right. All right, so Joe's going to go ahead and pay to drain for 2, courtesy of Lord Maul adding 1 to the drain. So he'll take the damage when he can get it. Little interesting, because that means he doesn't think he needs that 3 force to improve his board state. Oh, Bastian lost another Rose and then BB-8 off the top. So Joe's happy to see those. Those are good grindy cards. Those are some things you fear if you get into a just elongated match with not a lot of battling. There's lots of force draining and grinding back and forth. Is that Rose and BB-8 can just be brutal to deal with. There's going to be a 2 force swing every light side control phase. Let's see. Chat speculation. The Bastian could play Han's Blaster, but he didn't activate it. Yeah, I know Bastian has run more weapons-heavy builds of this with blasters. I'm not sure if that's the best build. It definitely could be in there. I guess we'll see. I don't think Bastian's used his force pile search yet. I do not remember seeing that happen. I'm gonna scroll up really quick, see if I see it anywhere. I think he's, let's see. Yeah, he did. Okay. Actually, all right, he used that way early on. I missed that. Looks like it was on his first turn, actually, when he pulled Leia, or used Leia with Brave Resistance. He actually then did use his force pile. So he does not have a force pile search. That is not available to him. All right. So Joe goes with the Blizzard 4. See if there's a perimeter scan. Pull an Imperial out, improve his destiny. I bet that he's going to grab Vader Enforcer if he's in there. Because then he has the ability to cancel Han's game text, and poof, no destiny for Bastian. Barring a Clash of Sabers, which is definitely a possible play here. All right. There was no Imperial Warrior. I guess giving up the Verify didn't matter because he'd already given up a Verify, but that's still a little... Why even bother? All right, so Bastian uses 2 force to allow the card to deploy for free, which means it's actually going to cost 2 because of Goldenrod. So basically, the flip side of the objective, let Joe deploy Thrawn for 2 force from himself and 2 force from Bastian. Probably see him go down as forfeit fodder on the Blizzard one. I don't know. I don't think it's worth it to put him outside. It's not virtual, so he's only power 2. And Joe can move his whole Walker and guys over for just 1 force. And battling into that doesn't make a ton of sense. and you wouldn't want to spend 5 or 6 force and then do it either, because you want to move things over. 7 force isn't enough to get a Star Destroyer down and do anything, and you want to pay Blizzard Force upkeep anyway. So I would guess we're just going to see Joe get everybody on the walker, move over, and then draw a couple, pay for Blizzard 4, and say go. There's been some discussion lately about how much of Star Wars these days involves these doom stacks of big buildups of characters. Ooh, Blizzard Scout 1. All right, that's fun. All right, so that changes the math a little bit. I mean, you do expect a reacting Finn if you battle. And again, possibility of force projection, so you're not even guaranteed to win this battle. Blizzard Scout 1 means he could, though, cancel Solo's game text or Ray's, so he gets to decide, do I care if a guy gets hit, or do I care if he draws Destiny? It's one or the other. Probably stops Ray, because then he gets to choose who he loses. If he stops Solo, then Ray would get to still swing, and you don't want him to hit Watto here. There's no reason to allow that. So, and Joe appears to be thinking if he wants to cancel the react or not of Finn. Probably not a huge reason to do that, but oh, yep, he's going to go ahead and do it. Cancel the react. That means Finn can't go used, so that means he's at least clearing one of these fine folks off the site. Let's see, we use a Justice, maybe? We'll see. No, he's going to cancel Solo's game text, so Solo gets nothing. So he uses Justice if he wants one of those cards, and if he wants to prevent Ahsoka from reducing it by 1. But he knows he's going to win, so he's okay that Watto is going to get hit here. Watto is absolutely the obvious target. I don't know why you would swing at the other guys. And there's not a forced Clash of Sabers, Watto, or doing anything sneaky like that. So you would assume Ray's just going to hit Watto, which will retrieve the BB-8. I feel fine assuming that going to hit. All right, Leia's Blaster Rifle. And Free Ride Under Celebration. That's a good play. I like that play in Legend. Win for Thrawn. All right, so he's just going for the forfeit fodder. Fascinating. He also may go, he doesn't have another Thrawn, but he does have another Watto, and we're going to win a battle in space later, so if I get rid of Thrawn, that's good for me. So, it's going to go in Justice to make sure it's not -1, make sure he can't draw 1 and have it reduced to 0. Death Squadron, he'll go fish out a low Destiny card. Bastian will reduce total power by 2. I mean, he wants to save that flip until he needs it. And the redraw would have done nothing, especially with Justice. All right, so there Joe gets Stalker. It wouldn't surprise me if on one of the previous turns and Bastian saved 2 and then lost it, if Joe had put Stalker down and he had to go fetch it out again. Let's see, Edward in chat asked, would it have been worthwhile to pull Coward to prevent BB-8 coming back later? It really depends on if Joe thinks he's going to need more shields. If he thinks he's going to need resistance at some point to stop a Legend flip-backed drain of 3, I would say probably not. Especially because he already has code clearance. So, I mean, he could have Jedi Lebs, and I guess you're happy with that. So it's hard to say. The way this battle is going, and the way they're fighting on the ground, though, leads me to believe that you're probably not going to end up situations where BB-8 would have ended back on the table and you end up in some sort of I'm here, you're there situation. All right, so Ahsoka was lost to the battle damage of 7. Solo gets his game text back. Joe moves Maul over, but he doesn't completely abandon Mos Espa. That's interesting. So he thinks he can handle whatever Bastian's got with those guys. He doesn't need his Walker and Ozzel. And that means he keeps his options open for next turn. He doesn't have to put somebody down in order to flip. He can just put Watto back down and stay at Watto's site. All right, so now Bastian is going to activate 14. He's got 11 in life, 11 in reserve, 14. So he's got plenty of things to do. 14 isn't quite as much force as you'd like to have, though, here when you're down 10 to 25. He can play Finn. He's got General Obi. He's got General Leia. He's got things he can play, but without Leia's gun being able to like shoot one of those walkers lost, there's not as much you can do to really change the math there. Yeah, Clash of Sabers on Watto and draw multiple destiny. Well, you can't draw multiple destinies because of justice. You know that avenue's not open. If you get Obi with a saber here, and you can at least hit, you can flip hit Maul, hit Watto, something like that. You can at least mow through some of those characters. But it's still going to be hard to actually get one of those vehicles off the table. And right now, those are going to be really, really kind of annoying for Bastian to deal with because he can either cancel Ray's text if he does something before swinging, or they cancel Solo's text and just prevent him from getting Battle Destiny, which is stronger. Now, if Bastian has Jin Erso right here, since she draws if unable to otherwise, that would be something. Okay, so he's going to go with Leia's Resistance Transport to Mustafar and whip out a Leia for free. That also gives me retrieval for battling. We'll see what else he does. He's got to have something else. Yeah, so Taniv. So there's more force. So I think we see Bastian is going. Yeah, a battle there wouldn't make sense. There's nothing he could do to really make that a worthwhile battle at Watto's junkyard. So he's going to abandon the junkyard and go back to Mos Espa. But now he has space set up. He goes lightly. Because especially with Thrawn dead, if Joe wanted to really attack into that with any sort of teeth, it'd be very difficult. At most, he'd be able to kill General Leia, probably. So that's probably not worth it for Joe. So now that puts Bastian on 2 battlegrounds. He can start getting some space pressure in. Let's see. Vader's not on table, so that's a drain 2. So he can start doing some damage. And he just runs away to the other site. All right. Let's see. Joe is flipped, so he can actually pay 3 to drain 2 if he wants. If Joe is not flipped, then his drains at Watto's Junkyard will be limited to 1. All right, Bastian whips out the Falcon. All right, so he's got more space now in hand. So we know he has the options. We'll see. I don't think Joe would want to force the issue here. Again, there's not a lot of incentive. But I think the most entertaining play would be if he actually played like 2 destroyers and overwhelmed. But I don't think it's going to happen. All right, so he pays 3 to drain 2. So there goes 2 force. Then he's going to look for the chance cube, which isn't there. And Bastian saves 2, so Joe's not going to put down an interrupt. Let's see, Bastian, he's still got a lot of resources. He could afford still to lose 2 and just not give Joe more stuff on table, but we'll see. All right, questions in the chat about the end game for Bastian. Let's see, using Odin Nestor to go to Takodana and hold that while dominating space. So, let's see, we've seen a free ride combo from Bastian. So if Joe's banking on occupation, he'll save the grabber for that. But he doesn't have to really dominate space. He just has to stay alive in space and be able to drain 1. Like if Bastian were to run his guys over to Takodana, Maul definitely comes over to Mos Espa where he can drain 2. So you could see projection, menace fades. You could see that. That's a possible way for it to go. You probably see the occupation from Joe. You can see the flip. He's getting more stuff out. He's either getting Star Destroyers out for free, or he's... Yeah, so like here, so he just bluffed with a Destroyer, and Bastian paid it because he didn't want to keep losing force. So now Joe's able to, set up the occupation. Let's see. He's got Ozzel outside. He's got Veers. This probably still makes sense as a battle. Let's see, he's got Finn who could react for free still to this battle, so I don't think he would bother to fight at Mos Espa. Because he might end up having to lose cards. But we'll see what else he can play. But he probably cares more about making sure he just stays alive in space. I mean, the Falcon is there, but Solo's on the ground. Poe's not. So, yeah, it could be like Falcon, Poe, anybody. So he'll definitely put more in space here. And then probably just move over and chase those guys on the ground. Targets to deploy Vader from reserve deck. All right, there we go. So now he has more Destiny canceling options, and that also will reduce the drain at Mustafar from 2 to 1, since Vader is on the table and Amidala is not at a Mustafar location. Quick count. So Bastian has 13 in hand, and he's got 22 in life force for 35 total. Joe's at 8 in hand with 23 in life force, so 31. So Bastian's up by about 4 cards there. Joe also has 2 on Justice that he can get when there are battles involved. If Joe has an imbalance combo, I could see him moving Vader to Watto's site. Actually, not the imbalance combo. I could see moving the Walkers over and moving Vader to Watto's site. So we'll see. I mean, Joe's situation, you don't want him to set up such a huge stack of guys that you can't block it with 2. You're fine if he's just wandering back and forth, but he's retrieving 1. So if you're draining 1, he's retrieving 1. You're not really doing anything. And if Watto is just paying 2, you're just putting guys on the table, but not actually changing the board state meaningfully. Not really doing much. The occupation is huge now, so you may see Bastian start digging for that free ride combo. Yeah, interesting chess match here. Because both sides very much just trying not to give the other one a game-breaking opening. Joe's in his battle phase now. He's thinking really hard. Does he want that fight? Because he's probably got like Kylo. Well, Star Wars and chess can be the same thing, Chris. Pretty much. I mean, there's dark side, there's light side. That's basically right? It's the same thing. All right, so Vader's just going to come over there. And he's immune to Sorry About the Mess, so he can't be swung at by Rey. He also can't be clashed. So that's a solid character to have there in that situation. So he can cancel Solo's text, and he can't be readily excluded from the fight. He will get to be involved. Okay, and then comes Maul. So that's slightly more interesting. Makes me guess that Joe has an imbalanced combo in hand, because what you don't want is you move Maul over and then they just Sorry About the Mess and kill him. I think at some point here, Joe really wants Legend to go ahead and get flipped so that he can know his EPPs can be used, because Legend doesn't play a lot of weapons protection outside of the flip usually, maybe a blaster deflection. And then just its redraws give it sort of a natural defense that you have to contend with. So Ozzel and Sebulba shuttled up. Let's see, we do the Rose retrieval. We'll see a drain of 1 at Mustafar. Joe will lose something. Oh, I think I can handle myself. Drain of 2. That adds a 1 to the force drain wherever you have a female. You can use that, and so he buffs it to do an extra damage, which is good. I'm just trying to force some things through. Because both their life forces right now are big enough they can still do pretty much anything. Oh, Joe Luce has gotten a Gleamor. That's an interesting card. Not really useful as much in this match. But in the mains match, that can be very interesting because you can put Ghana at Watto's Junkyard and then just lose on force to cancel the drain at Mos Espa. So if they stack your Mos Espa and then you just don't care, really changes the math for that match. Once again, Bastian fails to find force projection from the reserve deck. Who knew? Amazing. All he's really doing is just checking his reserve deck to see what's there, what isn't there, what the destinies are like, and just kind of plan out the rest of his turn. All right, so he puts Finn down. He doesn't need Finn, and he takes Finn. Hey, that's funny. So Finn's Destiny 1, and so he just got him out. So that means we're probably got a Rumble coming somewhere this turn. I think what you might see, especially if he has good Destinies in his reserve there, is you could see the Falcon, Poe, and Chewie battle into the Stalker. Or you could see General Kenobi. There we go, that works too. My thought had been if he attacks the Stalker with a 6-maneuver ship, he's got all wings, he can battle, draw 4+, spin, and actually put the Stalker in the lost pile. But this is also an option here. He's got General Kenobi with Qui-Gon's lightsaber, so now he's got 2 weapons. He can hit Maul, he can hit Vader. He's got more power, so he's not significantly outpowered. And if he has Clash of Sabers, he could still get one of those guys out of. He could still get Maul at least out of the fight, though Maul would have a swing unless he flipped. But I kind of think you'll see another Resistance character here come out in space at some point. Because if he's going to battle, he's going to flip, and if he flips, then he'd be able to drain +1. So, okay, there's Finn. So Finn is able to go used with Rose, unless Vader cancels Rose's game text. You think he'd probably rather cancel solos to stop the inertia from loss, but if there's no inertia from loss pile he cares about, why bother? So now it's 20 to 22, and Bastian, once again, is not going to battle. So you get these just weird situations where nobody wants to be the one who initiated because nobody wants to get battled back into because they can have reasonably equivalent forces, but it's like if the battle goes poorly and then you get battled back, you kind of cleared off over the course of 2 battles, and nobody wants to put themselves in that position. And Bastion's just going to draw more cards and save 2. Be interesting to see what happens here if Bastian has the free ride in hand and plays it. If all he does is lose cards from hand, then that would imply that he's still digging for it. All right, so where are you looking for me? Looking for a 3PO with his part showing. Shuffles up his destinies, sees what's in there, knows what's the 2 cards in his force pile are. All right, so it goes and gets 3PO. 3PO is really good. I think I usually don't see 3PO in legend lists, but we already saw the I think I can handle myself. I can loop. Finn's going to pull, sorry about the mess, blaster proficiency into hand. So Maul's, we'll see. Maul might hit the lost pile on Bastion's next turn there if Joe doesn't fight. Or you could see Joe pivot here and like move Maul over with Watto and somebody and move the Blizzard 4 and the Blizzard Scout 1 over because they're not liable to be hit by a lightsaber. All right, so we'll see Tatooine Occupation for 2. So there's a Ray from hand. And Jedi Love from hand. So Bastian likes having the Destiny 5 in his used pile, and he's probably trying to make sure he doesn't lose free ride. Because if he lost it, he'd probably have to use that with Solo at some point to make sure that Vader doesn't cancel his game text and then he gets killed and then you don't get to play it at all. But okay, so he decides to go and lose the Were You Looking For Me after all. Just decided to lose the cards from hand first. And then a Who Jukes out the reserve. So now he's at 18 in life, 11 in hand. So Joe's got 20 in life, 9 in hand. They're exactly even at the moment. 2 saved. So what is Joe going to do here? 16 force, 4 in reserve. I mean, that's enough for a swing and 2 draws, but you would assume Legend flips. You don't have to worry about the redraw if Legend hasn't flipped. And so your 4 destinies are good. And if Legend was flipped, you're not swinging your lightsaber, so you're still not worried about the redraw burning you out of your reserve deck. All right, so yeah, so first things first, since he's flipped, yep, bluff first, make them choose, you get a plan. Oh, nice. So Bastian pays 2, and Joe's got Chirano. So that is a great card here. That makes his space drain harder to ignore now, and makes the Starship all the more powerful. And depending on how many guys get committed to the site, the Stalker's ability to chase actually becomes a potential problem for Bastian, since he already lost Jakku, so there's just going to be the Q systems, which is fine, but it makes it harder for him to run around and set things up. All right, so he plays Ghana, and then he cancels Solo's game text just for fun. Watto to pull a chance cube, see what the destinies are. If the destinies are not good, then he's not going to fight. I would assume. Because you know Bastian has force projection. Bastian can flip. Oh, yeah. Joe says not ideal in the chat, which makes sense. Probably something like a 1-2-2-4, something like that. Ooh, that's saucy. Okay, that's cool. So Joe's got Greedo, and now Bastian cannot swing his weapons. So now Joe, even without ideal destinies, he is definitely going to fight. He canceled Solo's game text, so Solo's not adding a destiny, so he doesn't have to justice. He gets his 2 draws. Bastian's going to think about if he wants to go ahead and flip to let Maul not swing. Or does he try and hold off and save that for another fight? Yeah, Joe is up by 10 on power. All right, so yeah, Bastian will flip. Joe's up 10 on power, and he's drawing 2-1, but there's a force projection that could be played. So Bastian decides for the flip, which gives him the redraw ability, and it means Maul can't swing. So since Solo's game text was canceled by Vader, that means Finn can be forfeited used. And so that's not going, that's a 6 forfeit unless Maul hits him, but Maul can't because of Legend. So 6 forfeit. So he's probably not losing a ton from that, but he's still far enough behind that even with force projection, don't know if Finn will cover it. All right, Joe gets 5. He didn't Legend, so that can be redrawn. Let's see, there's 2. But yeah, Maul adding +1 to each of those draws is big right here, because even with the bad draws, at least he still gets something out of the deal. And Dr. E combo for 4. Total of 6. All right, yep, and there's the force projection. Ooh, huge. All right, so that actually completely negated Joe's draws. And then whatever Bastian draws is the difference between 10 and how much he has to lose. But he'll get to pick exactly where he loses from. So it's a 3. So 23 to 30. So that means Bastian's going to lose 1 card and Finn to the use pile with Rose. And Joe is going to lose Ghana Gleamord. I feel pretty confident. Joe's thinking about it. Thinking. I wouldn't imagine he has doubles of any of those, except he might have another Maul. But yeah, I don't see why you would lose Maul first. So all right, so he loses Greedo instead of Ghana. So he wants to keep the power, up. He values more having the extra power to be able to outpower. Or he just totally runs away everybody, so he has Ghana to cancel the drain, so it just becomes a drain of 1. That would be the other play. Which point Bastian would drain 1 and 1, retreat 1 with Rose. Joe would drain 2 and 1 and hit 1 with Occupation. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So Bastian chooses to lose the Falcon from hand. So that telegraphs that he's not thinking too hard about actually trying to dominate space, which at this stage of the game I think makes sense. He could only spend so much to devote resources there, and with Justice, it would be hard to do meaningful damage there. Still might be worth it. I mean, again, all it would take is 10 attrition with an all wings and a 4 or 5 to have taken out all 3 of the things on the Stalker. He also might have a barrier canceller and would be afraid of like moving in front and have to move guys over. I don't know. Interesting, yeah. Just losing the Falcon is a really interesting choice there because now the option is not open. It means he must really like what the rest of his hand is. I'm just sorry about the mess and Poe and whatever else. Yeah, I mean, he still has Poe, so I guess he can go Poe on the tandem next turn, and then he has 2 resistance characters at Mustafar. All right, so Joe moved the Blizzard 4 over, and then he moved Vader to the other one. Let's see. Yeah, as Edward asked in the chat, move over the Blizzard Scout. That definitely was an option. He may be holding that, just hoping he'd be able to react, though I would kind of expect that to get Odin comboed. But he might be saving it for that. Because he's really... If you can keep the power differential up high enough, especially with force projection gone, you force them to lose a couple guys anyway. And even if you're not drawing, like with Veers, 2 destinies, he could Justice and draw 2 if he wanted to. Yeah, so here we go. Sorry about the mess. Ray on Maul. And there's a 3. And 6. No surprise there. What is interesting, so he took the guaranteed get Maul off the table, but he only has 2 left in reserve. So he's not actually likely to fight this turn because he couldn't hit Ghana and draw. He has a 6 there. Yeah, it's better for setting up for next turn, having that 6. Oh, gotta refresh. So he'll drain at Mustafar. Let's see. Oh, he retrieves the Start with the Mess for hitting, which is kind of nice. Let's see. No, that was Rose. So you retrieve the Falcon, and then you retrieve the Start with the Mess. There we go. That's the order. Sorry, I lost on the refresh. So he's got those back. Now he gets drained at Mustafar for 1. Joe goes ahead and loses the Chance Cube. Not planning on using that. 2 in reserve. 3PO with his part showing. So yeah, now we could see, let's see, 17, 25. And unless he has free ride, it seems like a dicey place to just run away, like if the Odin combos away. I mean, you wouldn't be able to grab it, so I guess you could always come back later. But he doesn't want to move in front of Vader and Watto because of the game text canceling. He could put somebody else down and fight. He could put Poe down just to make his Mustafar drain +1 again. Yeah, interesting to see the choices here. All right, so Bastian is all the way to his move phase. He's playing nothing. Okay, so he's just going to move in front. Decided that battling there wasn't worth it. He'd quite conceivably end up losing 2 characters. He didn't want to use the force to put anybody down, apparently. He's got that 6 tracked now, so he can do stuff with it. He's got 3PO, so probably just getting ready to start loops, interrupts, and also by not using force, you may see him draw several here because he probably is going to dig for that free ride with no force power search to find it. Let's see. Joe will have some interesting choices here. Because Watto is vulnerable while he's just at the site. But with Justice, the thing is you don't really care that much. Because even if they could draw 1, they can't draw 4, which is really what you care about. Like, you can't just get, like, utterly blown out. So Joe can rearrange guys as he sees fit. With the Sorry About the Mess being retrieved, Bastian can just keep whittling guys off the table with that, all the non-vehicles. Which means that Joe has to be aware of that. Joe will be able to drain for 2, drain for 1, potentially occupy for 2, but I do kind of think we'll see the free ride this cycle. And then we'll see if Joe has his other occupation or not. That's something. If Joe could grab it and then put down another one, that puts him in a pretty strong position. Joe activates 8, saving 6. Interesting. That implies a battle. Or, yeah, I don't think he has a 6 track, so it's not like he's going to like step on Ray or something. Ooh, escape pod and we're doomed. All right, so now Joe has to pick, unfortunately for him, because with the escape pod and we're doomed, there's that, and we saw free ride earlier, which means Bastian can loop whichever one Joe doesn't grab. So unless he has a min or something special planned for them, he's not going to be able to rely on that occupation damage for long. So good play by Bastian there. Yeah, 3PO definitely just adds to the legend grind ability, which is good. All right. Joe searches for a chance cube that isn't there, checks out his 6-card reserve. We're still in the activate phase. He could still activate more if he doesn't like his destinies. So we'll see how he decides to proceed. You assume he will drain for 2. He will, at Tatooine, he will drain for 1 on the ground. But if he can't rely on the occupation damage, let's see, he can deploy stuff with Watto, but you assume that he's not going to lose 2 to let you ping there. So Bastian goes ahead and walklings back a 5 here. So Bastian is just keeping his life force up, getting a 5. That's good for battling in the reserve. So he'd be able to battle, have some destinies, have a 5. All right, and so Bastian's retrieved it. Now he just loses it. Yeah, it was just a unit of life force. So he didn't care about the 5. He's got 9 cards still in hand. Still really happy with his hand. He loses a fin from used pile. There's the drain at Mos Espa. Another force. So at the moment, if Joe drains for 3 and Bastian drains for 2 and retrieves 1, they are in lockstep. 17 life force apiece, 8 cards in each hand. I think Bastian will pay for this. Yep, and there it is. There's Mara Jade with lightsaber. And because one of the ways to think about a late game especially is when you're using 2, it's like, well, they probably save 2 or 3 force, you have to use 2. But they effectively lost a force because they did play a card out of their hand. Yeah, there we go. I was thinking double EPPs make sense. There's the Kylo. You get him and Mara. You save the 6. Phone call I'm not going to take right now. I'll get back to him later. Yeah, whatever. Let's see. So now 22, you can cancel Solo's game text, and he's got 2 swings. So now we'll have to see what destinies he has cooked up here. Legend with the redraw. Also, yeah. So he goes for Rose, and if one Rose. See, did Rose died before BB-8? So I think Rose stays dead. So I think this is the second Rose. I'm not going to scroll back in the log to check. But yeah, firing Kylo first at Rose. Oh, this is interesting. So this means, all right. So he draws the 1, and now the second one, Bastian can cancel with I think I can handle myself because Rose is a female, which means he will have missed. Yep. But now that interrupt is gone and the redraw is gone. So depending on what the rest of Joe's destinies are, he can feel pretty confident on a hit. Now, there could be a blaster deflection floating around there, so he may still aim for Solo or Rose, but he at least gets to make that choice. I kind of think he'll go for Solo. It's interesting. Bastian doesn't even go for Watto here, because you assume Joe has another Watto, and so it just doesn't seem to care. Solo doesn't have game text, so he's not drawing. All right, so yeah, Mara's hit. Bastian does get a retrieve 1 because he hit. And now Joe has to pick that second swing. Yep, he goes for Solo. Solo's the safe play here because Joe also knows his destiny. And they so there was a couple ones in there, a 3. We saw the 1, 3, 4. So yeah, so 1, 4. The next one is probably going to be a 4 or a 5 as well. So he probably knew he was going to hit. Or it may not have mattered between the two. All right, there's the Odin combo. So Solo keeps his forfeit, so Joe doesn't get to take 2 people out of the battle. Now we'll see Bastian swing. Could be Watto, could be Vader. MP's going to go for Vader. And milk down the characters here. Ooh, Ahsoka Tano. We already saw Bastian was a Jedi Lev. So, yep. 1, 6. Obi-Wan is neither alone nor with a clone. He can't add 1, so that's a miss. That's a bit rough for Bastian there. He would have hit any of the other characters. Joe gets Sidious. He needs guys. So yeah, so Sidious off Justice. He has the 1. There was no redraw anyways. I mean, I guess Bastian could be playing a You Do Have Your Moments virtual, which he has played before, and it's a pretty sweet card. So Joe gets his 5. And so he's at 27 to 16, and Bastian doesn't get a draw. So he's down by 11. Solo kept his forfeit, so that's 7. And then he has to decide, does he... Rose only covers 2, and she'll retrieve 1 of those back on the next turn, so you probably don't bother losing Rose. He's only got 5 attrition with Solo covers. I think you just lose the 4 to keep everybody on table, most likely here. But we'll see. So that went pretty well for Joe. That's probably as well as you could expect it to go, other than if Odin was gone and he could have whittled down 1 character. That would have been tremendous. But assuming that there were going to be some countermeasures from Bastian with a big hand like that he was protecting, you had to assume that not everything was going to go your way. So overall, that's pretty good for him. Let's see. And then, so yeah, so Bastian loses Rescue, Ahsoka off the used pile. With 3PO, any card he sees that he wants, he can go back and get. Yeah. So mathematically, the winner of this game is basically guaranteed to advance to day three. They will be 8-0, and I don't think we can have more than. There's some weird vagaries because the way we do the side swap, where you can get technically strange, like really weird numbers of tournament math, but it basically guaranteed, down to like 99+%. The winner of this 8 games will be in. There should be at most about 8 or more win players. So winner of this guarantees a spot. The loser will have very good strength of schedule, but still need one more to guarantee that spot in tomorrow's tournament. All right, so yeah, he lost the Ahsoka, Rescue in the Clouds, Ahsoka. He lost the Odin combo. He forfeited Solo, and then he lost Lando from the used pile. I don't know how much of that was particular ordering. You'd rather retrieve Lando than Solo, I guess, because Lando's a 5, but I think he has another Sorry About the Mess in hand, so he's probably killing Kylo or Watto this time around. So he's doing that with Rose on table, so he can retrieve. He can Sorry About the Mess, retrieve another one. Activates 3. He'll 3PO for that card. Let me see. What is that going to be? Under the Odin. What is the 4th card under the Odin? Back and check. I love game logs. Lando was 1. Lando, Bail Organa, Blaster Deflection. Yeah, Blaster Deflection. He grabbed Blaster Deflection. Which makes sense. So we'll see. He's still... All right, so Vader goes ahead and cancel Rose's game text proactively just to prevent any retrieval. I suppose theoretically, if Bastian has like a second solo, then you start to get kind of sad that you did that. But overall, like, that's a solid play. Keeps the ping up, keeps the pressure up. Yep, so there's a Sorry About the Mess. Having just pulled the deflection, I'm inclined to guess this is Watto, because he really needs to be able to draw Destiny, and if he's going to fight there, he really, really needs to be able to draw Destiny. Oh, nope, Kylo, actually. Okay, so here's the way that works. Yeah, he's not going to fight because he has 2 cards in reserve, so he's not prepping for a battle this turn, and if he killed Watto, Joe certainly has another Watto and just deploy him. So killing Kylo kills the Saber. So get Kylo off the table, and then you retrieve one. So he retrieves the Lando, and then the Sorry About the Mess resolves. That hits the lost pile. But Rose's game text was canceled, so she's not retrieving anything. Force Strain of 1 at Mustafar. 10, 22. So let's see. Once Joe loses a card, they will be once again exactly tied at 22 hand and life, with a difference in game clock of less than a minute. All right, so it's a big turn for Bastian. What's he gonna do? Yep. All right, so he goes Holdo in space onto the Holdo-mobile, aka Leia's transport. And probably what you'll see then is Leia will transfer over to the Tantive. Well, I guess you'll see Poe hit the Tantive, Leia transfer to the Tantive, and then the 2 of them move to Tatooine, I think is what we're about to see. Because he's got to block that drain of 2. He's got to do something. And with Holdo being able to add a ton to Battle Destiny, to Total Battle Destiny, that's your shot to really clear things out. But I think at this point he can't really... The status quo is not quo for you Dr. Horrible fans. And he hasn't been able to draw a ton, so he still may not have found that free ride combo. I kind of think he has, because he's Bastian. Like, Bastian's just one of those people like Johnny Chu where you just assume they have the card in hand. Like, it just apparates into their hand. Not cheating, of course. I mean, just like, they're just like good at just knowing exactly where everything is. And so they find the things that they need. So he's probably got the free ride combo in hand. We'll probably see it at some point here. With no escape already having hit the table, there wasn't a lot of incentive to do it other than before it saves you damage. If no escape wasn't in play, then there's some incentive to like play it and bury it. But all right, so yeah, Poe did come down. Bastian moves his 3 guys over to Mos Espa. And then, all right, so he's not going to move over yet, but he did up that to a drain of 2. So one of the things, especially late game, is when you can't do everything you want in the turn. So a lot of times you have to, it's sort of like they talk about chess, sort of like you're planning a turn ahead. And so in this case, he's probably planning to move over next turn, but in order to do that, he needs to spend those resources this turn, so he'll still have enough resources to actually do that. So he plays Holdo now, he plays Poe now, and then next turn he can move over. Let's see. We'll see a quick revert here. Joe just said it auto passed. He wanted to do something in the draw phase, and Bastian said sure. So let's just go back to the draw phase. Which again, this is thoroughly reasonable ask. Not something that would occur in the actual life game, but can occur on Gemp. So yeah, Joe's going to play that accelerate, put a 5 back. And with all those guys in front of Veers. And at this point, Bastian may not have a Finn in hand. So if Joe can get down, yeah, here we go. So Joe's going to command. We'll see if Bastian bothers to grab. Bastian's not going to grab it because he wants to have the 2 to at least threaten to pay for Watto. He doesn't really want to lose 2 at this stage in the game. But you might see him actually choose to do it anyway, just to keep the board state. Yeah, so he's going to go ahead and grab it. So Joe knows that he gets to make him lose 2 next turn. But the reason is, if that 4 hits the table, Joe can battle, can activate down to those 2, battle with and take a card off Justice, and then draw 2 unmodifiable, and know that he's going to draw 9, which is going to put Obi-Wan in the lost pile, or Rose and Rey. So he knows he has a 5 on bottom, but that's all that he knows at the moment. Oh, and he also got Grievous. So if Obi-Wan dies, Grievous will have a Saber. But since the Saber doesn't add to drains, you don't really care. Yep, there's the free ride. All right, so Bastian plays the free ride. Joe has nothing to grab it with at this point. So unless he has a Min Canal or something special planned for them, or a Sense randomly, the occupation is not going to be occupying for anything, which means he's going to drain 1 at the junkyard, drain 2 at Tatooine. That's still 3. He knows he can hit him for 2 with a bluff, so that's 5. So he will put a quarter of Bastian's cards in the lost pile this turn. All right, Joe checks his other destiny, knowing what he's got with that 5. So we'll see if he's happy with what he saw. I mean, as long as it's a 3, even, he's probably happy with it, because that's enough to kill Obi or kill Rey and Rose. But since Bastian's down to a 2-card hand, getting those guys off the table would be really important. All right, so let's see. Drain 2 at Tatooine. Oh, that's a Chewie from reserve, a Rebel Leadership from reserve. And then drains 1 at the junkyard. Hear me, baby, off the reserve. Then Joe bluffs. Here he can bluff with anything. That's quite probably an interrupt. But since Bastian has to lose, he's fine, so he can bluff whatever he wants. So Bastian loses the Falcon. He's got 1 more first remaining to lose. So yeah, with free ride being able to knock occupation off the table, if Joe has an occupation, he might go ahead and play it just to force Bastian to think about that and loop that, so he can't loop other cards. Qui-Gon from hand. So he doesn't think he's going to be able to pay for Qui-Gon and use him meaningfully. So he's down to 1 card, and then he's going to 3PO. pick up a card. Yeah, just being down to the one. Yes, there's Tarkin. So it's possible that last card is, sorry about the miss, but I don't think it's likely, and Joe would rather just try and force the issue here. So he's going to play two guys. He's going to go big in power. Yeah, and then he'll be able to battle Justice to negate the redraws from the Legend flip side. All right, yeah, there's Finn. All right, so Bastian grabbed a Finn, which he probably knew was there because he's Bastian and pays attention to things. Oh, Joe with a barrier on Finn. Oh, that's rough. Okay, so that's not good. So at this point, Joe's going to have X and 5 for his draws. Oh, and he just got another barrier into hand, too. Not that that matters that much. So he's going to draw an X and 5, so he's going to be up big. Probably enough to defeat all... probably enough to put Obi and Rey off the table. The swing goes at... I don't even know who he swings at here. Grievous maybe, but... oh, and the question in the chat, no, he'll get 2 draws because Veers beats... He draws 2 if enabled otherwise. So, yes, there are 2 in reserve, and he's going to draw 2. And they will not be redrawable because they can't be canceled or modified. Joe has 2 in reserve, 2 in force, 13 in used right now. Yeah, so Qui-Gon hits Grievous, and then Rey is going to hit Tarkin, which will retrieve Qui-Gon Serene Jedi. And I would imagine he'll pay for it. Don't know why you wouldn't at this stage in the game. So he'll retrieve, but now Joe gets to draw his 2. Let's see. So if Bastian were to draw 6 here, Joe's a little put out because he's losing Ghana and Veers. But, oh, Tarkin's bounty's of it. So he 2 5s. All right, so that guarantees that he's going to have to lose Obi-Wan. Yeah, up 22, just to draw 4, 22-16. So, yeah, that's everybody just to not take battle damage because he can't peel 7 to keep Rey on the table. He could peel 2 to keep Rose on the table, I suppose, but I don't know that really buys you much. I mean, she'll retrieve 1 immediately, but, I mean, he can move Vader over in front at this point and just cancel her game text anyway, which he probably does. Barrier on Finn is huge there. It's up 4 power and 6 forfeit. So that effectively, yeah, that just meant that he's going to dominate that site now. Yeah, 18 battle damage. It'd be 14, and if you had Finn, you could use Finn and Obi and keep Rey and Rose. But as is, they pretty much got to go. Rose. Let's see, yep. Let's see, he loses Ghana. 4 attrition means that the Walker was immune. Okay. So we'll see. There's not a lot of outs left for Bastian at this point. So he can move his ships to Tatooine. He could shuttle down General Leia to be with Finn in front of Veers, but unless you're going to whistle up a 6, don't know how good that'll be. And yeah, so then he moves Vader over. So he's got a bunch of power there. You can't contend with both of those. Can't really contend to either of those sites and stay. I'm running out of paths to victory for Bastian in this. He's down by 5-3 after he drains. And he can't draw Destiny at Watto's Junkyard, and he gets outdrawn 2-1 at Mos Espa. So he'll have to go in space, but without the occupation, now the Stalker actually is in the position of being able to just run if it wants. So he can't force the action in space, and he can't flip Joe back. Let's see. I mean, at this point, it just goes, how desperate do you want to be? I don't think he has any ways to get a card into hand. So all he can do is draw things, but he can't do anything really this turn other than move. So yeah, he can move in front. He can decide, does he shuttle somebody out of the most far site? I mean, Vader could just move in front and block, though, like randomly if you put somebody there. So yeah, so he's going to move over. Imagine he'll shuttle down Leia here. Oh, no, he's going to shuttle up. And then yeah, that's basically the GG there, I think. Because he didn't even move the character over, which means he can't, like, if he holdos, he kills his own Leia as well for no particular benefit. Let's see, Bastian's just drawing. 3PO. Yeah, it's an interesting game. I wasn't sure how the game would play out going into it. So things worked out. Legend was never able to really hit a controlled board state. Watto just got too much out on the table. Bastian, I think, had a little trouble finding what he needed, especially in terms of occupation cancelers and such, because he did have to eat at least one loss to the occupation. Yeah. Overall, really interesting match. It's kind of fun to think about how many battles didn't happen in the early stages of the game. But still, at this point, there have been plenty. I mean, there's no light side characters on Tatooine sites anymore. But so much of it was just about the posturing, the positioning, the who's where, the move phase. Move phase is the new battle phase in a lot of ways. Yeah. Let's see, so Watto's going to go ahead and check the chance cube. But I don't think you'll see Joe battle here. There's just not really any point. I mean, he just... Oh man, if he could have stolen the Blizzard Scout 1, that would have been big. But yeah, no. Reveals a Watto. Yep, he has another Watto. No surprise. What's interesting here, though, is that Joe may not actually have anything to bluff with. Because if he's got Watto and 2 other cards, it's almost certain that Bastian would rather pay than lose at this stage of the game. So if you don't have a guy, or effect or ship or something, you can't really bluff. You're more likely to end up losing your own, because if you fail, if you can't deploy the card, you lose 2 force and the card. So I mean, it's a stiff penalty. So all right, Bastian loses Blaster Reflection from hand. There's another drain. Here's Cinderella from hand. She doesn't think that she's going to come into play. All right, so he has something to bluff with. It's probably... it's Lord Sidious. That's exciting. Yep, and I'll just throw him out there for another ping of 1. I almost wonder if he overactivated here. He's not going to have much of a reserve deck. Oh. Bastian will barrier just to get the card back in his life force. Because he could have like an EPP Ray potentially. I mean, she can't battle Sidious though. He just excludes her. So maybe he could have drawn his Qui-Gon Serene Jedi again. Not that he's going to do all that much. Yep. All right, so shuttle Sebulba back down. It's not going to be a big space brawl, and he's just going to run off to Mustafar. Yep. All right, let's see. So Bastian's got 9 force in life, 9 in life, 4 in hand. He can pay 3 to drain 2, but when you're behind in this situation, that's not likely to really do anything for you. Let's see. Joe actually draws down to 8 life force, so he can't really threaten another Star Destroyer, but I don't think it's really going to matter. See, there's a Death Squadron assignment from Joe. Bastian's already grabbed Imperial Command. He can't grab that. Oh, pulls the Vengeance, which will probably be his next bluff card. Let's see, what outs? What could Bastian have? Again, Lord Sidious, you can't really attack and have it work because he'll just exclude him because he's alone if you battle into him. So just force him to spend 5 force to play a guy who can't do anything. And if you put anybody with him, he's going to exclude Anakin after you battle free. So that's not going to end well. But it blocks drain 1. And, I mean, Sidious isn't really going to fight him either, so they just have a little standoff. There's nobody doing anything, probably. Or Joe will bluff it with a guy and actually get to play the guy. And, ooh, the barrier on Anakin just to cycle it back into life force. So he could have somebody and actually battle into Anakin if he wants. And now Bastian can either chase in space or lose 2 to Watto next turn. So he can lose 2 to the drain or lose 2 to Watto. Yeah, not a great call. You don't have good options either way, unfortunately. Oh, wait. Oh, aha, Legend. Legend can. So yes, he can actually. He can spend 2 to move over and 2 on that. Unless Tatooine, what's the text on Tatooine? You're moving 2 here, you have, okay, -1. So he can move there for free, but he can't move away for free. So, yep. All right, game clock's 13 and 11, so there's still plenty of time. All right, he's got 2 on bail. Okay, so he can chase with the Taniv and still drain. But yeah, he's losing 2 to Watto, so now he's still going to eat ping of 1, Watto for 2. So that's going to hit him for 4 of his 11 remaining cards. But yeah. This is one of those games at this stage where, on the one hand, you go ahead and play it out just because your opponent might make a mistake, but at the same time, when your opponents are Joe Olson or Bastian Winkelhaus, um, they're probably not going to make a mistake, not at this stage of the game. So, let's see. So he moves over. He's probably just debating, does he go ahead and draw that last one or does he save it? He goes ahead and draws it. He's not going to do anything useful with it. Now Joe is probably going to bluff with either the Vengeance or Darth Maul with Lightsaber would be my guess. Seems most likely. Yeah. No sense in battling for Joe. No need to give him the opening. With resistance in effect, he can't be drained for more than 2 with either system, so it doesn't really matter which one he's blocking. Yep, so there goes Qui-Gon. And then here's going to go another card. And his fades. He'll bluff. Anything he wants. Bastian's only choice is to lose 2. He loses, I think I can handle myself from hand, because, yeah, he's not going to be able to add to a drain of 2 with resistance out. And he loses Lando Skeleton from hand, because we've been always forced just to deploy him and keep him on the table. Yep, oh, there's Maul. So he's going to pay 7 for Maul, just to make sure he hits the table, because he knows that next turn he'll be able to do that. And then you'll see, I imagine, the Stalker move over to Tatooine, because he doesn't really want to put the Stalker in the lost pile. Oh, there we go. And Bastian concedes. All right, well, that was game 2 between Bastian and Joe. Congratulations to Joe for assuring yourself a slot in the top 8 tomorrow. And Bastian, very well played in rough circumstances. Very well done, both of you. Congratulations to both. Yeah, and thanks to everyone who watched and who watches this later on the recording. I had fun talking a lot. So I look over there like it's the camera, but it's actually my display. The camera's right here. So it actually has me looking where I want. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm going to be tuning out for commentary, but there are plenty of other folks doing streams as well. So please do keep up with the coverage and enjoy the rest of the tournament. Farewell.